Okay, so I guess walk us through, and we'll get to lead lab, but I kind of want to talk about, dude, when you came in, you ran Final Expense. You ran a variety of different leads. So I guess what was the first fresh leads that you started working, and like how was that experience when you kind of got past that first initial, like, okay, I'm kind of burning money, and you became profitable? What was the lead type you were running, and how did you feel about that lead type in general?
Yeah, so I started off running final expense. I think that's what, everyone kind of starts with, unless you start with like aged vets, which I know some people start with that. But I started off with final expense. My experience running those, I mean, it was pretty decent at first. You make a few sales, with nowadays with the way final expense leads are priced, I mean, depending on where you get them, you got to make sure like you make one sale, you make your money back. You make two sales, now you're a little bit profitable. Make three sales, now you're scaling a little bit. So that's where I started. Now, my experience with those, I mean, it was pretty good for what they were. I was able to sell those at a pretty high level. Honestly, at a higher level than I should have, because if you're profiting from final expense, I mean, the biggest if you're that profitable on final expense, the biggest thing needs to be moving on to a different and better lead type. And it did take me a while to be able to do that, but especially once I did that, I mean, I started seeing a lot higher profit margins for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna get into his sales skills. Y'all, he's being very humble, but yeah, this dude can sell, and I want to figure out how and why he can sell so well. But I've heard a lot of great things about the way he does. But you said something that was super important, and I don't want to skip over it. You mentioned once your skill set hits the capacity for the lead type. Can you explain in detail for an agent that probably maybe didn't catch that? What exactly does that mean?
So, I mean, when you're able to, because I mean, everyone is like, I don't know how many people track like their profit margins and things like that. But when you're able to, profit a certain percentage or certain amount off of a final expense pack, I would say, that's when you need to start obviously raising it a little bit. I think my best month issue paid on final expense was about 25 grand, which I mean, that's pretty low to be honest, and with all things considered. But I mean, off of final expense, that's a higher amount. Like there's not a lot of people who issue pay 25 grand on final expense. And that's not saying that to brag on me because I did that. It's actually, if anything, it's a little bit of a jab because I should not have stayed on final expense that long if I was issue paying 25 grand off of it. I think when you're running final expense, I mean, you get a lot of people who are obviously lower income. So I mean, it's very different where when you're running vets and truckers, mortgage protection, I mean, you're trying to convince Miss Betty to put her last $30-$40 a month into a life insurance policy. And my business partner, Tristan, he used to tell me this all the time. He used to be like, there's nothing wrong with selling a $30-$40 a month policy. But if you're working with someone and that's their budget is $30-$40 on a monthly basis, like they go out to eat an extra time in the month, there goes their coverage and there goes your commission. Like then you're getting a charge back. So I would say, I mean, once you issuing, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 off of final expense, because that's typically, when I first came in, that's what everyone started with. So once you're kind of at that point, you definitely need to find the more profitable leads out there.
Yeah. I knew that you were going to be really good when you first ran our file, like the very first time you bought the filing expense leads, and you closed like three or four of them, but the policy like premiums weren't high. And I was like, oh, he's really good at selling. Like he's not trying to force his hand on these people. He actually wants to put them in the right position because you weren't selling them for crazy premiums, bro. I think you sold some people for like basically nothing, but it was relative to their budget. You weren't, I'm sure you could have tried to sell them for something
Yeah.
more, but you didn't put him in a bad situation. I was like, yeah, he's going to be really good. Like he gets his hands on the right lead type. He's going to be a dog because most people just can't do that. Like, okay, they just give up or they just try to misquote them. And I noticed you really want to put people in the right position, bro. Walk us through your transition from final expense to veteran, and then we'll go from you're kind of doing veteran and truckers. But walk us through that transition when you went from final expense and you went into veteran.
Well, I mean, it actually wasn't an easy transition. I mean, for starters, I mean, I didn't have partnerships with you guys until a few months into the industry, at least at this new company. So we were getting vets for like crazy high cost per lead. And I noticed that I would sell some of these vets and, they stick a lot more. They stay on the books than more than final expense for sure. But I noticed that I wasn't, it was a rough transition for me at first because like I said, learning over earning. And if I could go back and tell myself, hey, this is a new lead type, you need to prioritize learning over earning, because at the time I wasn't too coachable, and I would close these vets here and there on these other vet lead packs, and I noticed that my profit margins were lower because, or not profiting at all, because even though I was closing them, veterans are all obviously, I should say, a more expensive lead type. So my transition with them, it was pretty rough at first. But then, I mean, to be honest, I just got kind of tired of trying to convince people with the $50 budget to put it into the policy, and got tired of getting emails from some of our insurance providers that, hey, this person's canceling, or this person, insufficient funds. I mean, I think I got one the other day from a final expense policy that fell off, and it was like 34, 39 couldn't draft due to insufficient funds. And honestly, I mean, I got a little tired of that. So I decided to go all in on the vets, and obviously they have a pretty higher income on a monthly basis. So it's been a lot different. Business has definitely changed since.
Yeah, no, 100%. So when did you want to get on truckers? Like, because I actually don't know this. Like, I had just threw something in the chat one day and I was like, yo, we're about to start beta testing these. And you
Mhm.
were like hype, and then you just started smacking. And I didn't know.
Yeah,
Bro, explain for the people and for me, because I've been waiting to do this interview just to ask, like,
yeah.
walk me through. You also told me when we were out in Arizona, you have like history or something. So I want to know, give me the full story, bro. And then we're gonna go into like, scripting and calling and stuff like that.
For sure. So with truckers, those are primarily IUL leads. Now, back at my old company, all we would sell, because they didn't have anything simplified issue outside of, Mutual of Omaha's Living Promise. Not everything they did was fully underwritten. So we would go in and do in-homes with people we know, or, it's a network marketing business model. So whoever your downline knows, etc. And all we would sell would be IULs and terms. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, I really need to learn this product, because I mean, this is all I have. And at the time, that's all I thought life insurance was. I never heard of like simplified issue life insurance or anything like that. So I did a lot of my homework on IULs, how to structure them, taxes on them, what you can do with them, surrender charges, surrender values, rolling your cash value into annuities for retirement. So I did a lot of homework on the IUL as a product. I would read like product brochures. I would go in there and mess around with like the illustrator for IULs across different companies, see which one kind of had the best index, which ones, has a better cap than others. And then basically I tried to run truckers before from a different lead vendor, and they were crazy. I think they're like almost $75 a pop now for trucker leads. And I was like, okay, I mean, this is great, but that's an insane cost per lead. It's $75 per lead. So I've always liked the idea of being able to run IUL leads. Then once I saw you guys drop them, I was like, okay, well, let me try this out. Obviously, this is a much lower cost per lead. Let me try this out and then see where it gets me. And then I got a pack of 20 of them, and then I closed 5 out of them. I closed one for, it was $200 a month, and then another for, it was 255, and then one for 320, and then another one for 200. What I really like about the truckers is it's primarily, like from the ads I've seen you guys run, it's primarily based around retirement. People want, tax-free retirement whenever they get older. So you get the right one who's young, they're healthy, they can get an IUL. Get the right one, they're younger, structure it the right way. Don't go basic solvent IULs and all that, where they'll lapse, or giving them a massive death benefit. And then yeah, they'll have substantial enough cash value in them. And what I really like is you also set yourself up for more business in the future. So, I mean, like I get a trucker. I think I structured his IUL. He's going to have projected like 250,000 in there within, I would say, like 20 years or so. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I structured it correctly. And what you can do from there is you can 1035 exchange it into an annuity, take lifetime income from it, and not pay taxes on the 1035 exchange. So really, it's just knowing a lot about retirement and how they work in general. So I was really excited whenever y'all came out with the trucker leads.